Tonight on Saltiness Isn't Bliss, if you are a lover of breakfast for dinner, this recipe is for you. So tonight in my kitchen, I am featuring an apple, cheese, and bacon omelet. Now, of course, you can make and eat this omelet whenever you want, any time of the day, and you can tweak the ingredients any way you like. But, you know, I realized that I just don't have any fresh veggies in the house. So I got creative, figured out what do I have, what can I add in there that's just creative and different than how I normally make the omelet, and I'm going to give it a try. So many years ago, I picked this little beauty up. This is a vintage omelet maker at a thrift shop for just 75 cents. And the beauty of this is not only does it look, and especially back then, look brand new, but it comes with 2 different omelet recipes right on it. So I do like to use the French omelet as my guide, but I will tell you where I change and kind of tweak the recipe to cut down on the salt. So first off, it calls for 4 eggs. Eggs have about 70 milligrams of sodium per egg. So if you can cut down even 1 egg and make it with 3, you're cutting out 70 milligrams of salt right there. The recipe also calls for milk. As I've mentioned in my videos before, milk is very high in sodium. So I'm going to substitute the milk recipe, the milk measurement with half and half. Half and half has very little sodium in it. And it calls for butter. We're going to use the butter in the beginning when we're heating up our pan as kind of our base layer. I'm going to go with unsalted butter. So anywhere you can tweak and cut down or cut out your salt, do it. And also, right here on the recipe, on my omelet pan, it actually says to put salt in the omelet. So of course, we don't want to do that. We're going to skip that step altogether. We are going to put the pepper in there, and we're still going to have delicious flavors, and we're still going to have some salt anyway, because our eggs are going to have salt, and our fresh cooked bacon that is hot out of the air fryer, of course, has salt in it as well. Okay, so I have opened up and flattened out my omelet pan. It calls for 1 tablespoon of butter. I'm going to cut that down as well to just keep it on the healthier side. Of course, you know the butter is unsalted. So I actually did 1/4 tablespoon of butter and then just split it evenly on each side of my pan. And I'm going to turn that about just before medium-high, because the idea here, and I'm going to turn the right burner on, the idea here is that we want the butter to start melting and kind of coat our pan right as we're about to put our ingredients in. So now in a bowl on the side, we're going to start mixing and blending everything that's going to go in our pan and become our omelet. So we're going to start with eggs, the star of the show. Like I said, I'm going to cut that down to 3. Recipe calls for 4. I'm going to eliminate 1 to cut down on my salt. So you just want to break and put your eggs together in a bowl. All right, so there's my raw eggs in my bowl. Next, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons of half and half. As you can see, my butter has started melting. I'm going to turn my burner down to just above medium-low, and I'm going to move my pan around to spread that butter evenly. All right, so to my eggs, I've added my half and half. Now I come over to the good stuff. So I've got a pepperoni marinara cheese that I'm going to slice up or cut up, and I've got a little hunk of a leftover apple here that I'm going to cut up along with my bacon I showed you in the air fryer. All right, so my butter is all melted in my pan. A little tip, if your pan and butter is ready before you are, like in this case, I put my pan right on a trivet and left the burner on. So the pan is still staying heated and warm without allowing that butter to burn or just disintegrate while I am preparing everything. So I'm gonna start with my bacon, and I am gonna just blot it with my paper towel just to get any excess grease off of there. And I'm basically just going to crumble or rip it into small pieces, drop it right into my bowl. All right, so there's my bacon all prepared in my bowl. Next, I will move on to my apple. Now, any fresh fruit will work, or any fruit that you want to add in there. It doesn't have to be fresh, I shouldn't have said that. Just whatever you have that you want to use up or you want to add that flavor to your omelet, do it. And I've never put apple in there, but I figured, you know, it's sitting in the fridge. And apple always goes well with cheese and bacon, so why not? So I just kind of sliced that apple into thin strips, and now I'm just gonna cut those down even smaller. So there is my next layer for my omelet mixture. And last but certainly not least is our pepperoni marinara cheese. I don't really have a plan with how I'm gonna cut this. I would just say the thinner you can cut it, the better. The easier and quicker it will melt as you cook your omelet. All right, so this is the time where the omelet really comes together and takes shape. So we want to put our pan right back on the burner so we can really get that heat in there for when we dump this in. And I've got a silicone whisk here. I was gifted with this many years ago, and it comes in handy for this exact recipe here when I'm making omelets. But whatever you've got handy, whatever you like to work with and use, you're just gonna mix and blend that as best you can. Make sure you break up those yolks from the egg. And try to get that as even in there as you can so that when you pour it in your pan, you've got a little bit of every flavor going into each side. And last but not least, I'm gonna add some rainbow peppercorn in there. Any pepper will do. And this will be to taste. We're gonna just pour it as evenly as we can into each side. You can use a ladle or a spoon if that's easier for you. And then just kind of spread it so it's even. So the idea here, we're gonna turn it up to about medium, is we wanna cook it low and slow, because if we go too quickly, it will just burn, and then the egg in the middle will stay raw. All right, so we are in the home stretch here with our omelet. I do have my burner just below medium high. I'm gonna turn that all the way down now to just above low. As you can see, my edges are really cooking up nice there, and my omelet is actually getting much fluffier as it's cooking as well. So now I want to kind of take this mini spatula, just gently go around my edges, loosen it up a bit. And then the idea here is if you're able to pull it back a bit, and anything that is raw and uncooked that you can push to the edge where it's gonna get that heat and cook up quick, do it. Because in just a moment, we're gonna combine these two sides into one and close this and create our full omelet, and we don't wanna have a raw middle when we do that. Okay, so our omelet is pretty much done and cooked. So now comes the really fun part. As quick as you can, you want to just flip that lid and put it right on the burner, closed up and sealed. So now for just a minute or two, we will let it cook on low on our burner, and that's going to just seal it all up. So it will just pop right out of there onto our plate in one huge delicious omelet. See you in a bit. Okay guys, you ready for this? There's a little sneak. And now, there it is. We're just gonna, well, that didn't seal up like it normally does, but that's all right. Look at all those flavors and chunks just pouring out of there, along with all the steam, of course. So now it's your turn. Go get creative in your kitchen. Go make some breakfast for dinner right now. If you have some great ideas for add-ins in your omelet that you've used and you cook with and make, please share them down below. As always, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.